And here we are ready to have our keynote speaker joining all the way from Israel, Tel Aviv. So we are often talking about the future of mobility, trends, and new shapes of partnership. And this time we are actually going to talk about the actual car and how the automotive industry is innovating the inside of the car. And for this keynote, I already see that Jason has connected, and I'm super glad to introduce you, Jason Weiss, who is actually an entrepreneur and startup advisor passionate about connecting people, ideas, and capital. He's currently serving as a COO and a Dealflow manager at Access Innovation, an early stage investment and corporate advisory firm that he himself helped to co-found in early 2014. Jason, lovely to have you with us. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we hear you fine, and we are sending you like a digital welcome, and the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you to Peter for inviting me. And it's really a pleasure to be here. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So thank you so much. It's truly a pleasure to be here and take part in this Future of Mobility event. Mobility has been a topic of interest of mine for many years, and particularly on the InCar experience, where I've had the pleasure to work with some of the biggest OEMs, car companies, and startups that are really changing the way we experience inside of the vehicle. So let's jump in. And we heard some of these ideas in the beginning video about the automotive revolution. The entire automotive industry is undergoing a massive period of disruption. As was mentioned before, McKinsey estimates nearly half of global automotive revenues will be in disrupted areas by 2030. And this is really driven by three key trends. The first is autonomous and electric vehicles. And this is answering essentially the question of how. How are we going to get, or how are our customers, consumers going to get from point A to point B? What's underneath the hood? What are the engines? What's the power? How is that going to happen? The second area of innovation is the new mobility needs. People are no longer desiring necessarily to own a car. They're asking all the time, why do I need a car? Why do I need to take this type of mobility service? We have more versions or types of mobility than ever before. And this is truly causing massive changes both in the consumer and the business space. And the third, which is the area that I'm really going to zone in on today, is the connected and digital revolution, which is answering the question of what. What are we going to do as individuals, as consumers in the future car that is connected, that is digital, that is becoming autonomous? And what are, for example, if you're a Tryg or a corporation, what are your customers, your consumers, your users going to be doing, and how is that going to affect your business? And to me, this is one of the most exciting areas because it brings together so many fascinating new industries together and new opportunities. But if we take a step back, and we think about what's been happening inside the vehicle in the past 100 years, it's truly amazing. This picture I found online, it's nearly 100 years ago. In the 1920s, Chevrolet first in-car radio. It was clunky, it was expensive, almost no one had it. Moved forward in the 1930s, Motorola invented the first affordable, smaller, portable car radio. And we saw over the decades pretty slow, linear transgression innovation with radio, with audio, going into cassettes, CDs. And then the 90s, we had OnStar and the first connected types of services. And over the past 20 years, connectivity, first with some versions of the vehicle, but really with the mobile phone, as we started to get mobile internet connectivity and a larger infotainment screen, really have been changing what we've done. And today, look at the interior of a Tesla here or Mercedes or any of these new high-end cars. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It looks unbelievable. But what's more interesting is what's underneath the hood. What's really powering this new experience? And that's the connectivity. And the supply, and is another way I like to look at this. Connected cars are becoming nearly fully 100%. So in the next few years, almost all new cars on the road will come with embedded connectivity. That means in the past, your phone in with you, that brought the connectivity. Now the cars are coming with built-in modems, which is really laying the infrastructure for a completely new way that we use data. And that is, you talk about data a little bit later, but also the types of services that we can provide to our customers that we can use as end users. At the same time, consumers are expecting the car to be an extension of their digital lives. This is really in two important areas, from surveys that we've seen as well as a lot of focus groups we've run with consumers. People expect the car to be an extension of their digital lives. We take our phones with us everywhere. We have our Alexa or Google Home at home. We want the car to have that same continuity, that smooth type of digital services everywhere that we are. But more so than that, and this is something that we've seen through a lot of our own research and focus groups, is that people expect to provide them new value, new types of services. And if you really think about it, the phone and the user experience of the phone was never really optimized for the car. It was optimized for you on the street or at home or wherever you might be. But the car has many advantages of providing those digital services in the vehicle that can take advantage of where you are geographically, what is happening in the car, how many people are there, and much, much more. Connectivity is becoming nearly 100%. The demand is there, and this is really creating all types of new and incredible services. A few that I want to mention now, and we'll talk about them. Health, in-car health is a huge new industry that never existed before, growing a double digit every year. Payments, retail and e-commerce, shopping, things that people would never think about, but as the car is becoming more autonomous, we are seeing the car makers really looking into these areas. Even something like gaming. Tesla, for example, already has gaming as an option when you're charging your vehicle. And we've spoken to several other automakers who are looking into gaming solutions for now, for when the car is stopped, or in the future, something that you would never think of a few years ago. Of course, insurance, I have a few words on that too, since this is largely an insurance event. And all of this is coming together to create personalization. If I were to sum it up and really say what is happening in the car, for everyone, it's going to be a much more personalized experience. The technology side, I want to say too, is really, really revolutionary. We're seeing the most exciting advances in technology in all these industries being applied to the car. Sensors being able to monitor and understand what is happening, where it is happening inside the vehicle. Connectivity with 5G is going to lay a whole new type of services, enable that connectivity data. We're seeing the most advanced AI and machine learning done on the edge inside vehicles. Biometrics, eyes, hands, body movement, all types of new understanding. Augmented reality, heads-up displays. If anyone has seen a demo of one of these heads-up displays, companies in the higher-end vehicles that are starting to come out, as well as a few startups in Europe that are really pioneering this. We expect in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll actually see this becoming more. And voice and audio. Think about it, we've been hearing audio pretty much the same way. There's a great company I'll tell just a quick story about that is inventing virtual headphones. And so their application of the car is phenomenal. Imagine you are driving in your vehicle. You, as a driver, can hear the navigation, can hear a phone call, nothing on you, nothing physical, no wearable, but your passengers don't hear a thing. Not only that, they can hear their own podcast, their own music, their own audio. This is just a taste of what is happening, how it is really showing amazing new applications inside of the vehicle. With all of this, it's a basic question of how are the automakers responding? And we've seen pretty much bar none, they are setting some of the most digital rules and going all in. Automakers know that digital is one of the key determining factors if you're going to buy or use that vehicle. So Audi and Mercedes-Benz, for example, just recently announced massive targets of 1 billion just from digital services by 2025. But this also begs the question, if we're in the startup ecosystem, of course, all of us, me in Tel Aviv, everyone in Europe, and somebody from Singapore too, how are they really going to do that? And we've seen some examples of internal innovation, internal units that have tried to create digital services in automotive, and it has generally not been very successful. It doesn't make so much sense your own version of Spotify when people are already using their own Spotify. So it comes to the automakers, to the OEMs to look outward, to partner with new players. And that we've seen nearly every automaker is creating their own startup engagement program, their way to bring in the latest technology, the latest business model innovation inside the vehicle to provide those digital services to their customers. And that's exactly what we have been doing at Axis Innovation for the past 7 years in corporate innovation and startup. We have 3 main businesses. We do open innovation projects, really build custom challenges and scouting work for some of the largest companies in the world across industries. We also have been organizing events. Post-COVID, we're doing virtual, just like this one. We've done many virtual events. And we also work directly with some of Israel's leading on fundraise and banking. We work across many industries, but automotive has been really one of the core focuses that we've had because we see the opportunity here as just truly unbelievable and massive for everyone involved, both the incumbents and the new players. So just a month ago, we had an exciting event called DICE, Digital In-Car Experience, which is focused exactly on these questions. What are people going to be doing in the car? And what are the OEMs and automakers doing? We had some of the leading OEM and Tier 1 manufacturers joining us from around the world, 14 leading startups from across Europe and is presenting nearly 80 participating. We had a fantastic discussion and networking, technologies from augmented reality to data ecosystems to personalization, name it. We saw the most unbelievable things that are already starting partnerships with OEMs, and the next 3 to 5 years will already be in the next vehicle. We also work directly with many OEMs. We run a program for Ford called the Make It Drivable Challenge all across Europe and Israel, which is sourcing for the best apps and experiences that Ford can provide their customers thanks to all this new connectivity and putting digital services at the forefront of their strategy. This year, of course, with the pandemic, we weren't able to do a physical event. Normally, we do a road show all over Europe, where we met with many, many exciting startups and developers. This past year, we did everything virtually, and we wanted to make something that was really customized, greatest effect for engagement. For us, and I know for everyone here, it's not just about talk, it's not just about me, it's about how do you create those synergies that can actually lead to partnerships, the launch of a new product or service together. So we created our own virtual event platform called Axis Spin, our own proprietary technology custom built for startup engagement. And this year, we had 30 teams coming from 18 countries across Europe, over 20 Ford executives mentoring and meeting with these startups. We had over 100 meetings. 4 companies were selected, and we're in the process of monitoring this and seeing how these companies can really launch their new products and services together with Ford in the coming years. Over the past year, we've also taken a step back and really understood how we can be most effective through corporate startup engagement. We've outlined real steps to creating one of these programs that can bring in the deal flow, but more importantly than that, that can create a methodology for success during and after the engagement. Now, I just have a couple more minutes, so I want to dive into a few things about the insurance side, which I think is super interesting. And in general, InsurTech has been really innovating with speed. I believe that the automotive industry has as well, taking advantage of the data that's coming from the car. And the way that we look at it, a data ecosystem that's being built. At our last event, the DICE event, we had 6 leading OEMs and Tier 1 really speaking about the data ecosystem and all the different players that come about. And one of the things I thought was so interesting from that is they all said that the real data ecosystem has not quite yet been built. They're still figuring out different ways to do it. So much new data is being created. Regulation is changing. There was some new EU proposal just last week about automakers and how they share their data. So this is still a totally fresh and new industry. And I want everyone to keep that in mind. We're talking about an industry that's estimated to be at $500 billion by 2030. And there's so much room for the incumbents, for the automakers to take part in this, of course, and insurance, but also startups. So we see here the insurance companies can really take advantage of the connected car data to provide more custom, creative, optimized solutions. And what we know from all the surveys that we have done, the focus groups, people expect and do to be part of their digital lives, to be as convenient as going on social media or chatting with somebody. We questioned about that earlier, how to make the claims process more smooth. I think that's one of the key areas for insurance companies is to really optimize their user experience on par with the other digital services people use every day. And more so than that, we're seeing something really interesting, that insurance companies, of course, are being able to use data in more ways to provide that custom service, but automakers themselves are directly becoming a challenger. We see Tesla, for example, launching their new Tesla insurance, and Elon Musk talking about this again. We see other collaborations, of course, in new ways. But most importantly, the critical thing is the collaboration with startups. For insurers to really succeed in the auto industry and take on any incumbent, whether they come from the OEMs themselves or from others, it's really going to be how they partner with tech startups. And I want to emphasize that this is not just about a one-time thing. It's really about a methodology and a mindset of partnership that goes global. It's not just about finding innovation or startups that are local. It's about finding the best globally because it's global and innovation is moving so fast. The news that is happening, the changes are happening nearly every day, every week. In order to stay on top of it, it requires a global mindset. Last few minutes, I want to just touch on 3 core startup areas to watch within the InCar experience. These are areas I think are some of the most interesting. And if you are a startup and you are into deep tech, I would highly recommend you look into areas. There's so much opportunity there as well. The first is data. We mentioned this. This is really the entire ecosystem, but it's not fully developed. And that's what's so exciting. There's still so much room for new companies to come in and create a successful model that is private, that is GDPR compliant, that is, and enriches that data to provide new value to customers. One company that we know we've worked with is called Autonomo. They've created a complete connected car data platform using over 20 million vehicles and astonishing 4 billion data points a day. They're working with over 20 of the leading OEMs and many insurance companies to help create a model to monetize that data in a safe and secure way. Another area is health. Health has truly come out of nowhere. There was no in-car health monitoring industry a decade or two ago. And now, with all the advancements in technology and connectivity, we're seeing this industry growing at double-digit percentages every year. There's one company called Continuous, a growth stage company that took their medical-grade technology and is applying it to the vehicle. Through just off-the-shelf hardware technology and some of the proprietary algorithms, they're able to detect your key vital signs, your heart rate, stress. Stress is one of the key indicators of where they come or an accident inside the vehicle without you requiring any type of hardware. There are any advanced talks in partnering with Daimler, with Toyota, with Continental, the Tier 1, and many others. And there's many, many more applications besides this when it comes to health. Is driver monitoring. EU regulation requires that by 2022, I believe, all new cars will have driver monitoring within them. This is a huge challenge, but also represents a great opportunity. And of course, it will lead hopefully to much more safety and security. Driver monitoring is understanding everything of what's happening with the driver. Where are you looking? Are you holding on? Are you smoking or drinking? Are you turning your head around to look at people behind you? All of this can be translated thanks to data and thanks to computer vision into real-time insights. And this, of course, could be very advanced for insurance companies as well. One company that's leading the field out of Israel is called Eyesight. This has secured over 10 design wins with OEMs to implement their technology. Last thing I want to mention, if you're interested to learn more about these companies, feel free to reach out to me. Glad to share with you our booklet from our in-car experience event called DICE we ran a month ago. I also put together a 30-page white paper earlier this year on in-car experience, diving into all of the areas I spoke about today and much, much more, really understanding how anyone, OEMs, and take advantage of these opportunities. Where are they? What is happening now? And what do we expect in the next few years? If I can help in any other way with startup growth, startup engagement, any type of unique program, please be in touch. We're based here in Tel Aviv, but we do operate globally. So happy to answer any questions. And I hope you all found this insightful and enjoyable.
Jason, thank you so much. It's been really, really interesting. And I see that we have a couple of questions, but we also have only a couple of minutes left. So let's try to take them quickly.
Sure.
Otherwise, thanks for sharing your contact details. I'm sure that the participants can actually just approach you online and get in touch. So first, you are connecting from Israel. We are sitting here in Denmark, so this is a very international question. Israeli startup ecosystem or innovation ecosystem is often perceived to be ahead because it is. So when it comes to mobility, like what are the trends you are seeing there and what can we learn from Israeli ecosystem?
It's a great question. They say in Israel, we're building the brains of the connected car. Israel has no automotive industry. There's no cars being made here, but there's great technology entrepreneurs. And the focus is largely on deep tech. Some of these things that I mentioned, advanced computer vision and sensors, that's what has really been excelled here, is taking that technology and being apply it in a scalable way. So I think it really comes down to the technology at the end of the day. And Israel has always had a challenge with scaling up, about finding the right partners and really building those global companies to a challenge. But in terms of creating that early stage technology, that's where we've seen a lot of successes. So I think that's something that everyone can learn is being able to find a problem that you're really passionate about. And there's so many problem or opportunity areas, and I highlighted a couple of them in this presentation. But at the end of the day, it really requires a strong technical background, technical experience. These are not easy areas to innovate in. These are not easy business models. So they require a lot of deep technology expertise to get in them. If you have that, then I think it's really one of the best places to be.
And now fast track into the future because we have a bit of the futuristic question for you, but you already talked a lot about the trends and what's next. So what do you see as having the biggest impact on the future of mobility looking 3, 5, or 10 years ahead?
So I certainly think it's going to be autonomous vehicles. It depends when that happens, not just because then we won't have to drive, but really how it affects the in-car experience. Because once we have autonomous vehicles in a mass way, or level 4, level 3 plus level 4, then it opens up so many new opportunities. There's a lot of data even mentioned about how much revenue can be is available for every minute people do not have to drive. The opportunities that go from, of course, just entertainment and gaming to business productivity. So I think that once people don't have to be driving and autonomous vehicles can really lead the way, there's a whole new world of experiences that can open. And that's where the services can really just scale and grow.
Thanks, Jason. And I think this is the last question that we can cover today. So as you mentioned, most of your stuffs are deep tech based. Are there any concerns about security breaches?
Sure, of course, especially when we're dealing with connected car data. That's a really, really sensitive area. And all the companies that I've seen, whether they're in Israel, Europe, or the US, this is one of their most important concerns. And the GDPR compliancy and being able to use that data in a safe and secure way. Every company has a different approach to this, but it's certainly one of the most important issues there are. And I think there's companies that are really doing quite well in terms of whether it's anonymizing the data or using it in a way that protects all the privacy within the person and using user consent. For example, most people in surveys that we've seen, if they're asked, would you share some of your data for a 20% discount on your car insurance? Most people probably would if it's their driving data. And there's a lot more that goes into that.
Jason, thank you so much. Our time is up. It was great having you here in this digital studio in Copenhagen at the camp. I wish you a wonderful day. And now, for everyone watching us, we are going to connect to the next speaker.
Thank you very much. Hopefully next time in person.